Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 314, Creating Goals That Actually Feel Good. Well, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to be here. I feel like it's been a minute since I've recorded a podcast, but it hasn't been that long. I was kind of in a time warp. I went on a retreat last week to Costa Rica, and the retreat was called Coming Home to You. And I didn't really even know what that meant. I just knew that I loved this person who was leading the retreat and I wanted to go someplace warm. And I signed up like a year ago. So, I had a whole year of experiences and things that happened. And by the time this retreat rolled around, I was like, oh, I'm going to Costa Rica. Anyway, I want to talk about that for a minute because there's so much value in giving yourself space to allow things to come through, for you to reset yourself, to establish some new routines, to get clear on things, right? When we're in our day-to-day lives, we can get bogged down. We have a lot of things going on, right? Especially y'all that listen to this podcast. You are working and you have families and, like complicated relationships or aging parents or kids that are, struggling to leave the nest or become adults or difficult things in your work or health issues. Like we have so much going on, right? And then we also are trying to figure out what we're doing with our own lives and how to take care of ourselves better and how to create habits that last and how to feel our feelings, right? All the things. And when you go on a retreat, you don't have to worry about your regular everyday life. You get to be taken care of. And that's why I love them so much. I love hosting retreats. I love attending retreats. Because it's a different experience, obviously, when I'm hosting or when I'm attending. But I especially loved this retreat that I attended because I got to be taken care of, which I don't get a lot of opportunities of that. I have a lot of clients. I run my own company. I host my own retreats. I have 3 kids, a house, pets, a husband, friends. There's not a lot of opportunity where I can just completely sit back and not have to think about anything. And I was able to do that. Anything as far as like, what am I going to make for dinner and getting back to clients and answering emails and responding to the kids' needs, wants, needs, desires, breaking up fights, blah, 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 right? Walking the dog, taking care of the house, doing my laundry, all that stuff that we do every single day. I didn't have to do any of that for a week. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I got to see the sunrise every day. I created the sunrise skinny dipping coffee club. So there was this beautiful saltwater pool that just happened to have the perfect view of the sunrise in the morning. And so actually Coach Steph and I were there on the retreat together and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I need to go skinny dipping. And so I went in there because nobody else was awake. And then I got her to go in there and it was like, I was doing a visualization exercise yesterday and she said, think of something that was really joyful and fun. And that moment was so amazing. It was like, wow, this is up-leveling my sunrise obsession. Having a warm cup of coffee at the edge of the pool. The pool was cool. And seeing this beautiful sunrise, it makes me kind of tear up thinking about it. It was such a cool experience. It was not something I did before, right? And I got to have spaciousness and I got to have my food made for me. I didn't have to think about it or shop it or clean it up or prep it or even put it on my plate, right? It was all mapped out for me. The day's agenda, all I knew is I had to be out there for the first event at 7:15 for morning meditation and then a morning yoga practice. Okay. And then I was served a beautiful breakfast. And then there was probably another coaching session or another exploration or activity that we had planned. And then I had a massage or I had a big chunk of time to explore and take a walk or walk into town or go to the beach or go jumping off a waterfall in Costa Rica. I had every day there was like 3 or 4 hours of time where I got to choose what I wanted to do. And I brought my watercolor paints with me. I read a whole book. I read a whole novel, which was one of my goals when I was there, is to read a book from start to finish, a novel, not a self-help book. And I did that. I painted. I journaled every day. I visualized every day. I did yoga every day. It was so, so good for me. And that's why I really want to encourage you to think about attending a retreat. Come to my retreat. I have 3 spots left in the Palm Springs Sober Sanctuary in the desert. That's the only one I have planned yet for this year. I'll probably have something else planned for the fall, but that's the only one I have planned for right now. But when I just want to talk about the value of those retreats for a second before I get into this topic. But when you're working on stuff and you have goals, or you're intentionally trying to stop over drinking, or you want to create new routines and new practices that you want to incorporate in your day-to-day life, a retreat is a really good way to get those things going, right? So a lot of people on the retreat wanted to have a stronger morning ritual or morning practice. They wanted to eat healthier food, and this place was perfect because it was all gluten-free and dairy-free. And they got to explore a lot of different ways of different types of food to enjoy. There were a lot of yogi type things that we did, that we learned that we could incorporate. So there's just, there's something there for everybody. And when you go on a retreat and you have this spaciousness and you're not dealing with all the other things in your regular everyday life, you get to try on some things. You get to try some new practices. You get to explore really what you want, what you enjoy, right? Without all the other distractions in your life. And it's a beautiful process. So my intention for this retreat was to just allow spaciousness for things to come through. And I just love an open book like that. I love an opening of like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to create some space to see what could possibly come through for me. And that could mean like a new idea, a new business idea, something that needs to be looked at, or something that needs to be healed, or whatever, right? And that's what happened on my retreat. Some things came through that like needed to be healed. And I have been working on this one specific thing. It was a childhood wound for 4 years. Like, I've had therapy and I've made a lot of progress on it, but it just hadn't really, it still felt stuck, And so that really came to the surface during this retreat. And I was actually able to do a lot of deep work on it. And I really moved the needle on it. And I feel so happy about it. And it's so much better. And I shifted the story that I was telling myself about it. And it was very, very good for me. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go on the retreat. Maybe eventually I would have gotten there, but not in this way, not in the process in which I was able to just focus on myself and not think about all those other things. So I want to encourage you to go on a trip by yourself, right? Create your own retreat if you can't come to my retreat. If you're like, oh, I should do that, or I've always wanted to do that, do it. Like, make it a plan this year to make that happen. Start saving your money for it. Start sharing that you want to do that with your family or your partner, whoever needs to know. But they're so good for you. You can meet other people if you want to go on an organized retreat. If you just need alone time to create spaciousness for you to think, and for you to have some time away, not cooking and, doing the day-to-day slug of life, I really, really recommend it. I go on retreats, I lead more retreats than I attend as like a guest. But even those it's great for me because I don't have to, I'm not worrying about the day-to-day life stuff. I get to focus on things that I actually want to focus on. So if your goals this year are to change your relationship with alcohol, I highly recommend that you put yourself in an environment that's going to help you achieve that. And my Sober Sanctuary in the Desert retreat in Palm Springs, California, would be a very good immersive experience for you. We're going to go on a hike to Joshua Tree. There's spa experiences. It's a sprawling, beautiful mid-century ranch in Palm Springs with a pool and beautiful palm trees and big spaces. And we're going to do a lot of other things there too that will move the needle for you and help you immerse yourself in an environment where things can happen and things can get shifted and new ideas can come in and new habits can be formed. So I want to encourage you to grab these last 3 spots. There's one shared room and one private room left. And even if you get a shared room, it's beautiful. It's a huge room, lots of space, your own private ensuite, sitting areas. So it's not like a bad option at all. So I want to encourage you to do that. All right. So that was my experience. I'm very excited about 2025. Actually, the topic of today's podcast is about creating goals that actually feel good. And I just led a workshop in one of my coaching programs about creating a goal. And I didn't actually have like a big goal for this year. It just not one big goal that hadn't come to me at the point, but I went through the process just like I teach my clients, and actually I came up with something that I wanted to do. And I want you to encourage you to think about things that you want to do. And even just like that word goal can be very repulsive to some people. Some people are like, I hate making goals. I hate blah, 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 the pressure and all that. So if you don't like that word goal, let's just think about then creating an intention or trying something new. I want to do something new this year. Okay. You can think about this any way you want. If you like the word goal, awesome. If you don't, think about something I just want to do this year. Okay. So we all have hopes and dreams and ideas about things we want, right? So the first step in this is, what are yours? Asking yourself that question. What are my hopes and dreams for this year? What would be amazing for me to do this year? And just start with a list. Write all of them down. Don't worry. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. But like, if you could do anything this year, like what are some things that you would love to do? Okay, just start with making a list. All right. So pause this podcast, go grab a piece of paper or your journal and make a list. What would be amazing for you to accomplish this year? Obviously, drinking should be on the list if you're listening to this podcast. Just saying, right? So make a list and don't worry about how you're going to do it. It's fun to do this. It's important for you to pay attention to what your hopes and dreams are, right? That helps you have a good relationship with yourself, which is really important when you're looking at changing your relationship with alcohol, changing habits, being healthy with yourself, all of that. It's important to pay attention. So just making that list, and that if that's all you do, it's going to be important because it's on paper now. You get to see it. You get to acknowledge your hopes and dreams, which is a good thing. Okay. So think about all the things that you want to do. That's the first step. Write them down. Okay. And then the next step is to just go back and review your list and circle the top 3. Like at the end of 2025, what would be like the most amazing things to have accomplished? Okay. And so go back and circle your top 3. And then from that list, highlight or circle the number 1 thing. What would you feel the most excited about achieving out of that list? Okay. And what does that say? What does that number 1 thing say? What is this statement? So I'm going to share mine. I want to run a half marathon this year. I haven't ran a half marathon in 2 years. I hurt my Achilles tendon 2 years ago on I was training really hard for a half marathon and I ignored Achilles tendonitis and it got really bad. So I had to stop running. I ran a little bit here and there. Like I ran on a Thanksgiving race and I randomly run with my friends and stuff, but I haven't consistently been running or training for any races. And I miss that a lot. So that's my one thing that I want to do this year. And that feels really good to me. It's like one little thing, right? It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be one little thing. I would invite you to look at the list again and think about, what is the one thing you've been thinking about doing the longest? Okay. What is that one thing you just wish every year you could figure out or do? The thing that you've been thinking about the longest, and maybe you're not where you want to be with that thing, or you haven't figured it out yet, that should be your thing. Right? Imagine that thing that you've been thinking about the longest. What if that got solved this year? What if that got created this year? What if you accomplished that thing this year? Whatever it is. What would that be like to have done it finally? Like, notice how you would feel if you did that thing. What is it? Is it to quit drinking? Is it to permanently stop over drinking? What is it? Think about it. And imagine you accomplishing the number one thing, okay? And what that would free up for you or create for you in your life, or what opportunities would you have because you did this thing, okay? I want you to just hold that for a second. Just think about that and how good that would feel, okay? Just sit with it for a minute and notice. So when I think about my goal of running a half marathon, I feel so emotional around it. I love running. I feel strong. I'm proud of myself when I do those things. I love pushing myself physically, towards my edge a lot. And that gives me energy, and I feel like stamina, and I have bragging rights, and I'm just super proud of myself whenever I do that. And I miss that about running. And so when I think about doing that and accomplishing that again this year, it feels really good to me. It feels like love. It feels like that feels right. It just feels like yes. Like I really want that. So I just want you to feel into your biggest hopes and dreams for the year. Okay? So once you've identified that number one thing, I want you to just kind of reread it to yourself. So what is it? Is it you want to quit drinking? You want to have an alcohol-free year? Is it you want to stop over drinking? Maybe you're even more specific and you have written down, I want to cut back to only drinking 2 to 3 times a week, and each one of those times I only want to have one drink. If it's that specific. Okay, so just kind of rewrite the statement, say it out loud to yourself, okay? And I just want you to notice how that statement feels to you again. How does it feel when you restate your number one goal, your number one intention, that number one thing you're going to do this year? And if it doesn't feel awesome, if it doesn't feel like a big yes or like a big opening or spaciousness, or if it feels like you're scared or anxious, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means it might need to be reframed a little bit. So I still think you should do it, but we can frame it up in a way, like we can think about it in a different way that will make us more open to doing what we need to do to accomplish it. Okay? So I'm going to share a couple examples of you, of clients that I recently helped workshop this with. So one of them was, one of their goals, one of my clients' goals was to not shy away from tough conversations with my husband. That was her number one goal for the year. And so after talking with her about that, it didn't feel great to her. It felt kind of closed off. And she said she felt a little wimpy for having that thought. She wanted to have more connected conversations. She wanted to be brave to like talk about things that need to be talked about, right? So she wants to do that, but the way she was thinking about doing that didn't feel great. So we workshopped that together, and she came up with, I want to have more vulnerable and authentic conversations with my husband. Do you see the difference? Instead of the original goal was not shy away from tough conversations with my husband, right? So it's kind of like it was kind of negatively framed, right? The goal was more framed about like what she didn't want to do. So I want you to think about how can you frame it up in a way that is something that you want to do. Does that make sense? So we went from not shy away from tough conversations with my husband to I want to have more vulnerable and authentic conversations with my husband. Do you notice the difference? So like that second one is like, I want to do this versus the first one is I don't want to not do this. Okay. So you want to make sure that your number one thing that you're working on this year is framed up in a way that feels like something you want to do, not something you're resisting. Make sense? So another example of this is a I just shared that with you. So maybe your goal is very specific. I want to cut back on my drinking and only drink a couple times a week. And in those times I'm drinking, I only want to have one drink. Think about how that feels when you say that. If that feels restrictive or like you're going to be missing out, or like you're scared because you're not going to have your thing, we want to recognize that. And if it feels like that, we want to change it. So, this specific example was, I'm going to work on, instead of just focusing on this number of drinks and how often in the goal changed to, I'm going to work on feeling and processing my feelings and urges. Sounds totally different, like a different goal, but it's not, because it has the same outcome. If you focus on feeling your feelings and expanding your discomfort and working through those urges, you're going to drink a lot less, because you're going to interrupt your automatic patterns and behaviors by doing that, which means you'll drink less, right? So it's going to have the same outcome. It's just framed up different. Your focus is on what you want to do, right? So it's similar. So like, I want to drink less, right? Instead of focusing on not drinking or drinking less, I'm going to focus on something I want to do. I want to allow my urges. I want to feel those difficult feelings like boredom and loneliness and frustration and anxiety, right? And when you say I want to do those things, it's like you're inviting something in versus like resisting. When you say I don't want to drink, it's like you're focusing on not doing something. Make sense? So we want to focus on the thing we want to do, right? So that's how you could think about reframing something. So give yourself some time on this. You got to put pen to paper, okay? I want to know who puts pen to paper. Whenever I say put pen to paper, do you guys do that? Please email me and let me know. hello@angelamascenik.com. I know a lot of my clients do it, but like, just general listeners, do you actually pause the podcast and put pen to paper, or you just ignore me? Because the people that actually do that are going to make more progress than those that don't. I promise you. Okay. Sometimes it takes workshopping. It's not all to be just listened to and kept in your head. Okay. Okay. So we have your number one thing. You're working on reframing how you want to think about your goal. Okay. The next part is like, all right, so now that we've reframed it, how does that feel? Really reframe it however you have this reframe in your mind. I'm going to use the example about the difficult conversations with the husband. So the new reframe is, I want to have more vulnerable and authentic conversations with my husband. That made her feel strong, okay, and powerful, empowered. And so from that empowered place, now it's time to go into action mode. So what is your execution of this goal looks like? Right? So when you're feeling like, yeah, I can do this, I'm feeling strong, I'm feeling empowered, now it's time to make a list of all the things that you want to do that's going to help you achieve this goal that you have for yourself. Okay? And for her, in this specific situation, we made a list of all the topics of conversations that were a little bit vulnerable for her to have. And we made a plan for her to, like, when she was going to bring up some of this stuff and how often. Okay. So even though this is a really good example, actually, because, I think in the past I've talked about make sure your goal is measurable and actionable. Well, this is how we make it measurable and actionable, even though it's not something you could like visually measure, or there's not like this thing you're holding in your hand at the end of, the year. We're going to track it by like, okay, these are the topics that I shy away from. And then we're going to map every week. It's like making a drink plan. Right? We're going to map every week, and we're going to keep track of these difficult conversations. So at the end of the year, we're going to be like, oh my God, I had 20 vulnerable and authentic conversations with my husband. And this is the outcome of that. We do these things. We don't shy away from, having difficult conversations. We're more connected. We know each other more. I feel more confident in myself, and I'm speaking up more in other areas of my life, right? Like there's other ways that we can measure this that don't have an actual thing that we're looking at. Does that make sense? So this is a really good example of how you can have like a goal that you might not consider measurable, But when you frame it up like this and you know your action plan and you list out some things that you want to do, then we can track towards it. Okay. So for my half marathon goal, so my actions would be, first of all, find a half marathon that I want to do, right? So that's number one, and kind of decide when I want to do that. And then making a training plan, or maybe inviting other people to do it with me. Hint, hint, Coach Steph. um, so, that's what my action plans look like. And then once you have that listed out, all the things that you need to do to get there, then you start working with it every week. Every week you're like, okay, what am I going to do? And you put it on your calendar and you move towards it. Okay. It is important to put a timeline on things. It doesn't mean that you're a failure if you don't hit your timeline. It just helps your brain like, okay, I'm mapping towards this, right? If we do, it's like, it'd be nice to do it. And then there's no timeline on it. There's no motivation. There's nothing behind it that's going to like, okay, like let's get this done, right? This was important to you by this time. So let's get it done. Nothing terrible should happen to you if you don't hit your timeline, by the way. Like you're not going to punish yourself or tell yourself shitty things. You're just like, oh, I guess I need more time than I thought I did. And then you add more time. That's all that happens. It's also important to be flexible, right? This is not a perfection only journey when you have these goals. You have to build in time for setbacks and getting sick and unexpected situations happening in your life. We all know that this happens now, right? I think sometimes we forget, honestly. Like when you have a big goal, like for me, I could get injured, right? I could get sick. Something could happen. I just hurt myself in Cancun, right? In December. That set me back a little bit. Things will happen. We need to account for that. So, and we're not shocked and like we totally spin out when unexpected things happen or we get sick. That needs to be built into the timeline. So give yourself more time than you think you need, probably. Okay. I also want to encourage you as far as like executing your action plan, write it down. What are you going to do this today? What are you going to do this week that is going to help you move towards your goals? If you're inside my coaching programs, you have all the worksheets you need to keep you on track with this in your daily worksheet and planning pages. Okay. You want to share what is working for you and what is not, how you're going to overcome your obstacles. All right. So like get an accountability partner, share it with your friends, share it with your spouse, join a coaching program. SODSL is open for enrollment until the end of January. Excellent place to be if your goal is to stop over drinking. Just FYI. That's ultimate accountability and coaching and support with all of the materials that you need to move the needle on your relationship with alcohol. You will drink a lot less if you join that program. Okay. And it's open until the end of January, and then I'm closing it off. And I don't have a plan right now to open that up again. It definitely won't be until, if I do open it again, it'll be until late summer. Okay. So if you want to work on that this year, you should join Stop Over Drinking and Start Living. So that's a part of your action plan, is getting into a community, right? If your running is your goal, join a running group. Sign up for a training program, right? If building strength is your number one goal, hire a trainer, join a gym, right? Like those are the things that you want to do, like up level your commitment, put some money on the line, get some accountability going, reach out to a friend and ask if they're interested in doing it, right? It does help to have those things in place. So progress is also way more important, again, than doing it right. You're going to go have this new intention or goal or thing that you want to accomplish, and you're going to get it wrong sometimes. You're going to try some things that don't work for you, and that's part of the process. I want you to remember that, okay? But the most important thing is that you're actually listening to yourself and you're making movement. When you fail at your goals or you make a slip up, it means you're actually doing something that's important to you, and I want you to remember that. Okay. So I encourage you to celebrate yourself along the way. Celebrate yourself for acknowledging what you want to do this year. Any little wins that you get along the way. If you have a setback and you overcome that and you keep going, that's a huge win, my friends. Okay. That you didn't give up on yourself and you're still working on this. I want you to celebrate that. All right. I would actually really love to hear what your thing is this year. What do you want to do this year? Is it to stop over drinking? Is it to quit alcohol? Is it to learn how to feel your feelings? Is it to improve the relationship with yourself? What is it? And I would love to help you on that journey. So consider joining me and stop over drinking and start living, and or come on that retreat with me in May in Palm Springs, California, to the Sober Sanctuary, and put yourself in an environment where you can be set up for success and supported on the number one thing. And I'd love to help you get there. All right, my friends. Also, Dry January is still happening. So if you haven't signed up for that, you still can. And everything is on the Replay Hub. So we've had 3 amazing classes so far. I taught a Dry January kickoff class. We had gentle yoga with Mary, which was amazing. This week we had breath work, learning some breathing techniques that really help you work through urges or get you out of fight or flight and get you into a more neutral state so you can stay focused on your goals. It was amazing. So all of those classes are already up in the Replay Hub. And we have a mocktail class still ahead. We have a meditative journey still ahead. And then we have our wrap up called Beyond Dry January. So there's 3 more classes that haven't even happened yet. And you have access to all of the replays all month. Even if you don't want to commit to going alcohol free this month, you should come just do these classes. If that's your only intention, it's worth signing up for and it's free. So come on over. It's AngelaMascenik.com/dry January. And it's going to be awesome. So all in all, pick something you want to do this year. Change your mindset around it, right? Get it framed up in a way that feels good. And create your action plan and start making progress towards these things. It's really important for you to have that relationship with yourself, listening to what's important for you, shining some light on that, and then taking the steps towards doing things that you want to do. That's important. It's your one life, and you should decide how that looks. And if you want help with stopping over drinking, I'm your gal. So come check out AngelaMascenik.com/join SODSL. All right, we'll talk to y'all next week. Bye for now.